Howdy. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. There's going to be more folks just coming in as we get started, but we just wanted to say thank you for taking time out of your Saturday just to come and meet your community and disability resources. This is an event that has taken place since 2014, and many of you know that we had that break in 2020, 2021, and we're so excited just to meet in person, to be able to hug and shake your hand and see smiling faces here. And so this is just a blessing to have this space to gather together. This was a project that's near and dear to so many people's hearts, and I'm going to just let the leadership team say hello and introduce themselves. This has been months and months and months of planning for people who love their community very dearly. Lots of people volunteered their time, and so we're just so happy they're here. So I'm going to start handing the microphone. If the leadership team would just walk over here and just tell us your name and where you're from. Okay.
My name is Lindsay. I work for the St. Joseph Therapy Department. I am our supervisor of our wellness program, so we do a lot of summer camps with the Down Syndrome Association, along with some specialty PT and OT. So we're glad you're here this morning.
Good morning. I'm Anita Lang. I work with MHMR Authority of Brazos Valley. I'm the program specialist, too, for intake services for the IDD side of things.
Hi, I'm Robin Miller. I know some of you from Bryan ISD and some of you from College Station ISD, and now I'm with A&M Center on Disability and Development.
My name is Stephanie Garner. I'm in-home parent trainer for Bryan ISD.
My name is Barbara Clemens, and I'm the Workforce Student Hireability Navigator, and we help students navigate from high school to post-secondary. We work with vocational rehabilitation services.
Howdy, I'm Pat Morse. I'm the program manager at Brazos Valley Center for Independent Living, and we are very excited that you're all here today. Please look and decide where you want to do your breakout sessions after Chris is finished, but we have plenty of time to look at all the tables for the next 30 minutes after him, and then we will start the breakout sessions.
Yeah, I was going to do that. Hey, gal. So I'm Eric Roberts. I'm with the Center for Disability and Development, and it feels weird just to walk up here. I also have the pleasure of introducing Chris Thelen today. And so Chris, he put on his thing that he's a young man, and that's questionable. But he's going to tell you all about himself. But what he's going to tell you today is a really awesome story about how, you know, the road to adulthood, the road to success, the road to independence for a person with disability, like so much of us, right, is a rocky, swerve and curve and turn and not quite a straight road. And he's going to tell you about that journey and then how each person, you, I, our kids, our young adults, questionably young adults, you know, are directing that, and how, you know, letting them direct that will get them to where they can be most successful. Please welcome Chris Thelen.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Fair warning, I'd like to actually think I have a sense of humor. There's a few people who I think agree, but you've kind of been warned. So I'm sure some of you, when reading Chris Thelen as the keynote speaker, did sort of a, who? And went to Google to see, well, what does Google say? And you find some real estate guy, I have no clue who that is. Okay, so you try Chris Thelen, College Station, and what you get is Chris Thelen is speaking at the Success Conference. Oh, and a LinkedIn page I haven't updated in a year. So no, I'm not exactly famous. I'm not exactly Google-worthy. I'm not wealthy. I still live with my parents, and I turn 34 later this month. Yes, I'm still a young adult, technically, and I will argue that until I die of old age. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is not. So, yeah, not exactly famous, not exactly Google-worthy. Some of that's actually intentional. I don't exactly like having everything about me all over the internet. I know what's out on the internet. I'm out on the internet. So what exactly makes me qualified to sort of talk on success at all? Well, I have a college degree. I have a full-time job that actually pays a respectable salary. I drive my own car that's fully paid off. I have a reliable friend group, which some of them are in the audience. Well, yeah, bit of a minor detail there, I'm also on the autism spectrum. Now, this does change things a little bit. I guess you could say I am a little bit successful, but I didn't exactly start that way. I kind of started just like everyone else, naked, screaming, and wet. Well, getting out of that particular instant, growing up, I was sort of an odd duck. Didn't play well with others. Played perfectly fine by myself. Played perfectly fine alongside others. It's the width that was a bit of a difficulty. Very bright. I occasionally joke I actually got in trouble in English class for reading too much, which says something. But I didn't exactly have friends. I definitely had behavioral issues that cropped up because of the, well, they changed when we went to the water fountain. Of course I had to have a meltdown. So something was up. And Mom ends up poking a psychiatrist, getting some testing and diagnostics done, and got the diagnosis of ADHD with anxiety disorder. Yeah, not quite right. But at one of the various trainings, because at the time my mother taught adapted PE, PE for students with special needs, and one of the trainings was talking about this Asperger's syndrome thing, and she had the realization like, wait, they just described Chris. So she takes the notes from that, goes and passes the psychiatrist. He takes a look at the DSM, and he goes, oh, I guess that is a more accurate diagnosis. And that's why I ended up autism spectrum disorder, at the time known as Asperger's syndrome. Now, this is the part where I would normally start talking a bit about autism in general. Can you tell I've given my biography in settings like this before? Let's scratch that out here for a sec. A little bit closer. The only thing you can take from meeting somebody with a disability is you've met somebody with a disability. It's not really going to tell you anything about somebody else. Everyone's got their own interesting, unique strengths and weaknesses. You're not going to be able to fit people in nice little boxes. And not even with a chainsaw. You lose the neat part. Heck, even those giant boxes that are high and low functioning they're not just worthless, but they're actively harmful. Oh, I'm high functioning means I cannot show that I'm bad at something. Oh, I'm low functioning means I'm never going to amount to anything. No, that's incredibly toxic and harmful. So no, a simple spectrum like that, like the one I've got here, no, that's worthless. This is a little bit closer to what spectrum really means, where everyone has areas where they're good, areas where they're bad. Frankly, I'd be out of a job if that weren't the case. I work IT. My job is I know computers, so other people don't have to. And I'm not complaining about this state of affairs. So maybe the next slide would be a little bit better. I have an absolutely good memory. I play Dungeons and Dragons. We don't necessarily need to take notes that much. I kind of memorize everything. Bit of a downside though, not so much for time management. I love deadlines, especially the whooshing sound they make as they fly past. I can talk for, Yeah, I had to cross the hours out. Hours understates it. I can talk for days about all sorts of various geekery subjects. Put me in a more traditional social environment, like, family gatherings, the night out at the bar, what have you. I'm going to run away in terror, if possible. If not, I'm going to, I can't run away, put up with it for the sake of family, most likely, and get out of there as quickly as I respectably can. I will reliably make it into work. The only times I'm actually late to the office are because I had to do a client site visit on the way, so obviously I'm technically at work even earlier than those days. Mentally, I'm not always all functioning there. Sorry, Paul. I actually do enjoy helping people. My college degree was aimed towards that, criminal justice minor as part of it. Just kind of prefer helping from a distance, away from people, over the internet preferably. A wonderful boon for introverts like me. So, knowing a little bit about this, we go on to the happiest place on earth, middle school. Okay, if you're anything like I was at that time, this is sarcasm. No, I did not understand sarcasm. I'm a little bit better about it now, but that's not actually saying all that much. But, well, middle school. Bubbling cauldron of hormones and stress. Tons of changes from elementary, and we're not just talking puberty. Suddenly schedules are incredibly different. You're going from place to place in a much less structured fashion. People are able to start making their own choices in a lot of, sometimes very unpleasant ways. Such as, oh hey, I feel bad about myself. I'm going to feel better by pushing someone else down. Welcome to bullying. Whoever said sticks and stones can break my bones and words can never hurt me is one of the most ignorant people on earth. Frankly, I prefer the sticks and stones. Broken bones tend to heal. So imagine you're a kid who doesn't handle some of the frustration of all these changes well and will explosively lash out. Oh, hey, if we poke the explosive kid, the teacher will forget to give us homework. So they poke the explosive kid lashes out, and well, here comes the beginning of a really nasty cycle of stress and frustration. I get stressed because of all the various things happening, which builds my frustration, which makes me easier to set off, which causes me more stress, which builds the frustration, making me easier to set off, and you can see how this spiral causes a lot of problems. I am lashing out pretty frequently. A lot of it's external. I did lash out at other people. I tended to go for the throat. I'd run away from classes. I had a lot of discipline issues. Okay, my mother was on speed dial at the assistant principal. But the lashing out was also internally. I hated myself, absolutely. That depression that's written up here, yeah, no, that sort of understates it a lot. This is a little bit closer. I won't be surprised because it kind of was significant if my mother still has, if only for the reminder of how bad things can get. It was a suicide note in all but name. If I'd actually had the will and the means, I probably would have actually committed suicide at that point. It was that bad. I absolutely described middle school as hell. And I wasn't being sarcastic or exaggerating. So yeah, I kind of ended up in a pretty dark spot. I got lost in the fog that is depression. Well, deep in this fog, Mom noticed, and Mom did something about it. Not like I could do something about it. She did. She got involved heavily, and I had a lot of various accommodations I had a lot of support structures that, to me, appeared out of nowhere. There was so much work done behind the scenes that it's, I'm not sure if it's not even funny would be the appropriate word for this. Tons of work. I had accommodations made. You're really hard to bully in the hallways if you're leaving class a few minutes early and getting class a few minutes late and hiding in the counselor's office. Can't bully what isn't there. I was moved out of several classes to get away from one of the teachers that was contributing to the bullying. I was moved in a number of different ways to get me out of the situations. The teachers who were actually willing to be educated were educated, and things really started to improve at that point. I started to understand the strange ways my brain works and actually start being able to communicate some of that. Actually be able to tell people, hey, I'm getting frustrated. I'm going to go somewhere else so I don't explode. And then the teacher can properly assign homework. But this was the start of things getting a lot better. I set myself a goal. The school district I went to, A-Leaf, had a slightly odd high school Kerr that you had to apply to get in, but it's still public education. The biggest thing was they weeded out discipline issues, so I actually had to not be a discipline issue during 8th grade. I somehow managed that. It was also in this time period, and it lasted until my freshman year of high school, that I had a girlfriend. It was the only girlfriend I've ever had, but I did have one. So take it from me, and, well, Winston Churchill here. If you're going through hell, keep going. Don't just stick around, because you're never going to leave otherwise. Keep going. Sometimes it gets worse, sometimes it gets harder, but it's better than where you're at. By the way, that previous statement has not been endorsed by the Hell Michigan Tourism Board. Although I kind of wonder what they think of it. On any case, getting out of middle school, I ended up in a much better, much healthier, much weirder environment, high school. I describe Kerr as weird. I describe every single student was nuts. We had the people who thought a 4.0 GPA was too low. And that sort of mindset bewilders me. But everyone's nuts. I just happen to have a diagnosis associated with mine. I got introduced to theater. I needed a fine arts cred somewhere, and I'm not exactly the drawing type. I don't have the coordination for that. Theater, especially theatrical lighting, that I can do. That's all nice, fixed, and structured. And no need for the precise, twitchy hand stuff for drawing. Side note, speaking as a theater person, theater people are weird. I don't know which is the cause and which is the effect. I don't know if they're attracted to theater because they're weird or if they become weird because of theater. Could go either way. I got better about figuring out what could be considered a safe place. Okay, I'm getting really frustrated, I'm going to head out to the library and make sure that teachers knew, yeah, I was going to be in the library. I got better at various coping strategies. I still needed them because I still had issues, behavioral included. But generally speaking, it's a lot more socially acceptable to kick a hole in a wall than it is to kick somebody's leg until it breaks. I did the hole in the wall. I did not do the leg breaking. I also got a lot better about speaking up for myself because, well, that was a skill I was going to kind of need because it was sort of expected I was going to be going to college. So I kind of needed to talk for myself because I couldn't exactly, having a conference with a professor in college, go, can I call my mom and have her help with this? No, I couldn't. So I did get practice with that then. And I actually have a story in mind for that, but I'm actually not 100% sure if I have time to go into it at this moment. I'll be open for questions. If somebody remembers to ask, I can share it after this. It is actually somewhat amusing, but not quite as relevant. But getting out of high school, actually before I got out of high school, we're talking junior year, I start the preparations for college. It's a lot. I wasn't ready for college. I didn't think I could graduate. Dad didn't think I could graduate. My psychiatrist didn't think I could graduate. Mom said it was pretty good odds I could graduate, but even she wasn't 100% certain. You'll notice from about 7 or 8 slides ago how I mentioned a college degree. Guess who was right? So, tons of prep work. I had to get a lot better about speaking for myself because, well, I was the only one who could. I had to get a fair bit practiced in the care and feeding of a human 101. I'm the human in question, by the way. Things like shaving, not that I did that very often, showering, making sure I've got clean clothes, brushing my teeth, all the various life skills to sort of live independently. It was in college that I had my last meltdown. At college, kids having basically a screaming fit. That's not exactly something a professor expects. I did, in fact, drop the class, but, well, the meltdown was because, no, survive my freshman year of college is not an appropriate long-term goal. When you're not sure if you're going to make it a week, a year is a very long term. Pun kind of intended. So I did actually end up joining the autism support group that was on campus there. That was actually one of the reasons why I went to Sam Houston for college. And I developed a lot more coping strategies, not just the how to interact socially, but there were a lot of them socially. Scripting is an amazing thing. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically, hey, here's a scenario that you can encounter. Let's write out a script for how things can go. I did have a script for sweet mate puking in the shared bathroom. I used it once. What we did not have a script for, but might have been handy, is sweet mate is gutting fish in the bathroom. I had no idea what to do about that. The bathroom smelled of fish for the rest of the semester. I had to figure out how to handle my sensory issues. I hate fluorescent lights. The flickering is incredibly annoying. The more modern LEDs are better. They don't have that flicker. But, well, it's a college dorm. It's not exactly the most modernized of anything. We'd occasionally joke, okay, who got these beds first, us or the prisons nearby? Because they're the same. I'm kind of leaning to the prisons, by the way. But the sheets were something I had to get adjusted for. The mattress was something I had to get adjusted for. I had a little incandescent lamp that was my primary source of light because I couldn't handle the fluorescence in there. Just a lot of the miscellaneous oddball stuff you don't normally think of. I had to get a lot better about time management because, hey, classes are scattered all over the day. And I got some really creative on some methods of doing things. I play a lot of online. I play one online game really now, but I play a lot of computer games, and I actually set it up so the antivirus would pop up right before one of my classes, so I'd have a alert there. Oh, hey, antivirus popped up. Let me start getting prepped for class. I never ended up with a computer virus that year. Too many scans. And I had to get a lot better about organizing. I think I still have all my various college notebooks, including the one I ripped apart during my last meltdown, with just notes and stuff and all sorts of notes everywhere in these things. I had to get a lot better about organization. I'm still not good at organization, but you can at least tell there's something that might resemble order if you squint a lot. You might need a concussion as well to see it. But it was organized enough that I could function and generally get everything turned in on time. During my time in college, I started out with accommodations. I started out with the extended time writing, extended time with a few different things, and I started to get myself off of them. One of the reasons I needed the extended writing is because my handwriting ability is atrocious. My handwriting's horrible. I struggle to read it sometimes. I've seen doctors with better handwriting. But most of my work is done on the computer. You're not handwriting things when you're doing computer work, usually. So I didn't exactly need that accommodation there. The professors started to get more familiar with me and my own interesting weirdness. So they sometimes recognized, oh, right, this assignment's probably going to be annoying for him. So I'll be perfectly fine accepting it printed rather than requiring handwritten type of thing. And I became a lot more comfortable talking about my disability. To this day, it's one of those, it's sort of the open secret. I'll talk about it depending on the situation, but it's generally not going to be, hi, my name's Chris, I have autism. It's, hi, my name's Chris, we'll talk about stuff. By the way, I have autism. If it comes up germanely. I also got a lot more social interaction. At the time, I played World of Warcraft. I stopped in February of 2009, and then my pesky D&D friends got me back in a few years later. You know who you are. Play Magic the Gathering. I actually played in a number of tournaments. Other people in real life at a little card shop in Huntsville, and a lot more in-person playing of this card game. There were other games played in the lobby of the dorm room of the small dorm building I'm in. Settlers of Catan is actually a really fun board game, by the way. We've got a few interesting in-jokes from that. Not that I've seen any of those people since, but we'd probably it was fun. Played console games, played a few board games. I was actually doing positive social interaction with people. Admittedly, by what outsiders looking in would say, yeah, it's a lot of acquaintances, not exactly deep friendships, but I had people I was getting along with socially in ways that are recognized as social entertainment. I didn't exactly have that prior. But I did make it through college, graduated after 4.5 years with a degree in computer science and a minor in criminal justice. Could have had an internship that would have led to a master's, except that would have involved driving an hour through downtown Houston, one way. I wasn't driving at all, much less in downtown Houston. So I didn't go that route. Instead, I attended a job interview at BCS on the same day as the graduation. Now, this wasn't my first attempt at the adult workforce. I did attempt a job at a software development company, and the fact that I'm not a morning person absolutely was a major part in why I lost it in less than a month. Out of respect for the company, I don't mention the name. The second job was at BVSIL, and I freely admit what I was doing wasn't the best fit for me. That's not knocking BVSIL. They are amazing people. And frankly, they're one of the places that I explicitly say, yes, if they can't help you find some sort of resource to help you, you probably didn't actually need any resources. They're good. Yeah, I think I've belabored that point a bit. But after I left there, I did get involved with DARS. I don't actually remember what that acronym stood for. It's now the Texas Workforce Commission, and while I didn't end up getting the job through them, other people have. It's another useful resource, and I believe they're around here somewhere as well. In the end, a friend of a friend who's actually in the audience out there, hi John, was working next door to a small little web development company that turned out to need somebody who was good with computers. And that's where I ended up with my longest job, Centennial Arts. I still have positive opinion of them. I actually visited one of my old bosses like a couple months back. Alfred's a nice guy. So yes, the title is accurate. This is absolutely a shameless plug to them. If you need a website or know somebody who does. I had an afternoon shift. It started as an internship, then it became part-time. My hours once I got up to full-time were 3 in the afternoon until midnight. Those are awesome hours. It's not like I'm asleep anyway. But I eventually, because I had to work more with clients, my hours were shifted back to noon to 9. So hey, I don't have to wake up in the mornings. It's not like working till 9 is a hardship. and somehow these people could actually put up with with my own interesting quirks. Joe could have fired me for several different things over the years. He didn't, which in hindsight kind of amazes me, but he didn't. It was during the 8.5, 9 years I worked there that I started handling my own driving. Actually started driving on the freeways, was driving to client locations, got used to driving. So while there were pros and cons, in general it was pretty good. I did end up leaving in the summer of 2020 because the direction the company was going, the skill set I would have needed to continue, I just simply didn't have and couldn't really adapt my skills towards it. So I gave them actually 3 weeks notice and left in the summer of 2020. After a few months of vacation, I got in touch with somebody else that John recommended and ended up getting hired at Downtown IT. We're located right next to Castle Rod, but that's just the main office. It's a lot more done through phone support, but a bit of a different skill set, much more client interaction in IT. And I'll be honest, if you'd asked me back in like high school, hey, you're going to have a job where you're going to a lot of different customer locations and directly interacting with people face to face, I'd have looked at you like you said the meaning of life was the square root of rutabaga or something. Everyone knows it's 42. So yes, it was a bit of a different skill set, although I am doing a bit more server work now. But it's sort of a sign of how far I've come on some of the social skills. Lots of client interaction, and honestly, a lot of interpersonal interaction. Paul and I disagree on a lot of things, and I'm not going to elaborate any further on that particular subject. So that sort of brings us up today. I was at the office yesterday, and I'll be at the office again Monday. It's not exactly morning. I start work at 10 in the morning, but I can actually make it. I couldn't have 10 years ago. But while I was at Centennial Arts, one of my coworkers, interesting guy, I'll leave it at that, found out I was interested in Dungeons & Dragons. Not that I'd ever played at the time, I just had all the PDFs of every single book ever published. Yay, obsessive interests. The joys of odd quirks of autism. Well, he introduced me to the D&D group, and I've kind of lasted longer than he did. And at this point, they're basically family. Zach's introduced me as his brother on several occasions. I'm basically an honorary uncle to their kids. Okay, when I wrote this, we were meeting on Sundays. I think we actually have a meeting later today. Yep, Brooks gesturing, yes, we are meeting later today. So yeah, it's been kind of a bit of a staple. This is the first group that that outside observers could look and go, oh yeah, they're good friends. I've never had that. Not until a year or two after college, which is a bit of a long time to not really have much by way of friends. I still don't have a huge number, but I kind of think quality makes up for quantity in this case. So that sort of catches us up to now. Some of the miscellaneous lessons that I've picked up, blundering blindly through this completely unmapped territory. Keep moving. If you're in a bad spot, keep going. Don't just stick around when things are bad. A few proverbs that are relevant to this. Rome wasn't built in a day. Actually, Rome was built several times because it burned down more than once. No, Nero was not fiddling at that point. The fiddle wasn't invented at the time. It would have been a liar. How do you move a mountain? One stone at a time. wow, this thing is incredibly daunting. Let's not focus on moving the mountain. Let's focus on moving this stone from here to here. Now let's focus on moving the next stone from here to here. And then the next stone, and then the next stone. And before you know it, how'd this mountain get from here to here? Failure is not in getting knocked down. Everyone gets knocked down. Everyone suffers setbacks. Failure is when you stop trying to get back up. To quote the words of those wise men, Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, I get up again, ain't never gonna keep me down. That's sort of success in a nutshell. Yeah, you're gonna get knocked down, you're gonna get back up, and you're gonna keep trying. Everything is a lesson. Everything. In fact, you generally learn more from not succeeding in something than you do at succeeding in it. Edison is quoted as saying, I didn't fail 100 times to make a light bulb. I learned 100 ways to not make a light bulb. And that's just it. Who's the better blacksmith? The guy who makes 100 blades perfectly every time, but has never failed at making one? Or the guy who's failed a bunch of times and but finally makes the perfect one? Probably the guy who failed a bunch of times, because he knows more about how it works, about why it works. There's a lot of argument flowing around. What's the difference between wisdom and intelligence? That might just be the fact I spent a lot of time in D&D communities where those are actually two separate things, or explicitly two separate things. But one of those that's relevant here is that intelligence is learning from your own mistakes. Wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes over my lifetime. I'm fully willing to share some of them as people ask, because I'd rather hope somebody else doesn't make the same mistakes. Make new, interesting ones. Even dead ends teach. The reason I mentioned that little software development company, one of the things that I learned from that was I don't have the right mental space to do software development. And if I hadn't tried it, I probably would have tried it while I was at Centennial Arts, and that could have gone incredibly bad because of where the software development was being done. Better to learn it really early on and know that, okay, this isn't my skill set, so let me focus my efforts and time on areas that better suit what I can do. Progress isn't always the easiest thing in the world to see. But some of that's because a lot of people try, I'm not getting this as fast as somebody else is. Well, yeah, some people are just better at getting things than other people are. That doesn't mean you're not making progress. Don't compare yourself to others. Bit of wisdom I picked up from the internet. I'd say take it with a grain of salt, but this comes pre-salted. I got rid of pretty much everything that wasn't worth tossing along, but the gist of it was talking about physical fitness and, oh, I'm fat, I can't get in shape. Well, did you break a sweat? Then you're making progress on that goal. You can break a mental sweat if you're pushing yourself outside of your social comfort zone. You can break a sweat in ways that aren't just physical exertion. And that's the easiest sign to see that you're making progress. You've pushed yourself past what you thought you could do. And, well, sure, you might only make it that one step further than you thought you could make, but that's still one step. That's still one stone. You try again later, once you've recovered. Maybe you can make it another step further. Hey, that's 2 steps beyond where you thought you could. Then it becomes 3 and 4. And before long, you're going so much further than you ever thought you could that you kind of wonder why you thought you were limited at all. Don't compare yourself to other people and what they think success is and how other people are doing. Compare yourself to your past self. Have you gone beyond what you could? If you can, that's progress. For those of you who have loved ones with special needs, this is more directed at y'all. A person's success is their success. You can't decide what success means to them, because then you get situations like, oh, the only form of success I'll accept is they're a doctor, in which case they're probably not going to be a success in your eyes. But it limits them. You can't decide what they consider successful. You can help. You can point out, I know you're interested in being an astronaut, but you have horrible, horrible motion sickness. You are, however, incredibly good at math. Have you ever seen that picture of the person who helped put the Apollo rockets on the moon? It's standing next to the book Taller Than She Is that's filled with math. Yeah. Sure, Neil Armstrong was the first on the moon. It took a mountain of math to get him there. So sure, you're not going to be the astronaut. You're going to be the person making sure the astronaut can actually do their job. Frankly, your vision of success for their future only really matters to you. Those words, "it only matters to you," actually have some pretty deep meaning to my mother. I mentioned theater in high school. Well, in the Houston area, for high school musical theater, there's something called the Tommy Tune Awards, which is, there's 40-something high schools in there, or at least there were when I was, and the judges go between musicals performed at each one of them and judge all the standard categories, from best production, best actor, best actress, best supporting characters, yada, 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 and then the technical ones that include best lighting, best sound, so on and so forth. My high school was nominated for several, including best lighting, and the award ceremony, where they'd actually announce the winner, is in downtown Houston. Most of the theater crew travels together. I travel separately with my mother. When they get together, they end up sort of having a quick conversation because they've got time before the thing starts. Hey, let's go out, get something to eat. Back and forth. Hey, there's the Hard Rock Cafe. Let's go. Yeah, sure, that's good. Let's go. Bye, Chris. As they leave. Mom was devastated. I was perfectly fine. I'd like to think these people knew me well enough to know I wouldn't exactly be comfortable in an incredibly social setting with a lot of loud noises going on, and I don't go to movie theaters very often because I'm not a fan of surround sound. It's too loud. So didn't that upset you? It only mattered to you. It only mattered to her. It didn't matter to me. And that was when she was starting to realize that my visions of success, what I would consider myself happy with, were not going to be quite what she'd envisioned. Don't just do things for somebody. Don't do it all for them, because then they never learn how to actually try to do something. If you don't believe you can do something, you're obviously right, because you're going to sabotage yourself. If you do believe you can do something, you may not necessarily be able to do it, but you're going to do a lot better than the person who doesn't think they can. The first step in doing something is believing you can. And, if you're doing everything for somebody, they never really learn that maybe I can. Offer them a lifeline. Give them a hand if they need a hand, but don't do it for them. If they struggle, offer to help. And teach them how to ask for help. I freely admit that's actually an area I still kind of struggle in, but a lot of people struggle in knowing when to ask for help. And it's really important to learn how to ask. That applies to the person with the special need, and it applies to the family members of the person with special needs. Hey, I don't know how to handle this disability. Let me ask somebody for help in how to handle it. I'm going to point places like BVSIL as examples where you might be able to get information to help. The journey of success doesn't actually have an ending, because success is the journey. As the bit goes, the road to success is always under construction. There's always more to do. There's always more to progress on. There's always more to learn. I'm still moving on things. I'm actually still working on moving out of the family home. It probably won't happen before I turn 34 later this month. Any landlords in the audience? But to get back to that old bit on success, yeah, there's the visions of, oh, hey, I Google successful people and I see all these rich and famous. Well, let's take a look at the actual meaning of the word success. Let's go to the Oxford English Dictionary, the closest thing to an authority there is on English. Success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. You'll notice that it's not saying becoming wealthy. Sure, that's an aim, that's a purpose you could put yourself towards, but you had success getting up in the morning to go to work on time. You had success taking care of yourself. You had success feeding yourself for the day. You had success in getting a job in the first place. You had success in doing. The pictures here have a little bit of they cover the things I was talking about earlier. It's got my college graduation. It's got me actually right before the job interview with Paul at my current job. And it's got me with my friends at, I'm wanting to say that's either Renfest or Sherwood Forest Fair. I don't actually recall which one. But I'd sort of like to wrap up with, my mother found this quote somewhere on the internet, but it's not wrong. Your present circumstances don't determine where you can go, they just determine where you start from. You can always push yourself. You can always go beyond what you thought you could do. How far beyond? I don't know. You probably don't know either. You can't find out where those hard limits are unless you actually try to push to them. You can't figure out how good you can be until you actually try. And really, isn't that what success is? At this point, I think I can if anyone's got questions for me, well, one, if there's, depending on time, there's only two stupid questions, those you didn't ask and those you didn't learn from. I'm open for questions. The worst I can say is, I'd rather not answer that. The odds are I won't be saying that, though. And if there's questions you have, I'm perfectly willing to answer. And I see somebody with a question back there.
Yeah, so you said that gaming was really helpful in terms of social development.
Yeah.
Are there particular types of games, like cooperative games are better than player versus player or team versus team?
They all help in their own different ways. Competitive help learn essentially good sportsmanship, how to get along with people who are antagonistic, how to accept, no, sometimes bad luck happens and my dominant position just got shellacked because they got some lucky draw. Cooperative help in, well, getting along with people, sharing common goals, and usually in a more fun way than, hey, group project, time in class, let's shove random people together and hope they don't kill each other. So, yeah.
I have a question. So,
Sure.
Sorry because I was late. Did
Sorry.
you mention when you find out when you... when did you find out that you had autism? Or when did they tell you?
I was diagnosed end of elementary. I was about 10. It was the late 90s. So it's been a few years that I've been able to work on the various skills.
So they got your diagnosis and then they immediately told you that, or you found out, or you started asking questions, or how did it happen?
Pretty early on, I'll be honest, I don't recall how far between honestly, I don't recall how far between the ADHD and autism diagnoses were. I've slept since then. It's been decades, plural.
maybe the question behind the question is, how do you recommend parents talking to their kids about having a disability?
Sorry. Honestly, that might actually be a better question to ask my mother, and she's somewhere around here. You probably heard her voice earlier. I inherited her volume. I did not inherit her volume control. But she's around here somewhere. She does have a Lucinda Thelen name tag, but she'd actually probably be a better person to ask. And yes, she's in the back there.
He actually, a long time ago, gave an answer. We had a parent ask you, I don't know if you remember, it was the Lincoln Center. We had some family there, and they asked the same question. You gave a really good answer. You said, answer their questions when they ask them, is what you said.
Yeah, I wasn't. I guess I was thinking more on the proactive telling versus the, hey, if they're asking, be honest. There's no good reason to there's no beneficial reason to hide it, and frankly, it's better. Sometimes it helps them answer their own questions of why am I struggling in this way, and then they learn, oh, that explains things. Sometimes you have to explain a little bit about what the diagnosis means, but it does help.
My grandson just plays games constantly. I can't get him off the games at all. He won't do anything else but games.
I'm kind of familiar with that from the gamer side of things. The gist of that, the best solution is, it's just trying to enforce other structures, so to speak. You can't do this until you can't play this game until you do this other task. It helps. It's kind of what I had to do.
I have a question. It might be a little bit personal, and I understand
Sure.
if you cannot answer it. But my granddaughter is pretty much too, like, she's not a morning person. She's up all night and mind going. She was put on certain medication. Do you have to be put on medication, and is it like long term? That's what I'm worried about it.
I am not currently on any medication. During college, I was on Prozac, and that did wonders for me. Before that, I was on Buspar, and I basically became a zombie under that. However, Buspar was the wonder drug for somebody else in the support group at Sam Houston. And so if you find a medication that works, then use the medication as long as it's beneficial. In my case, it was more during college. I just wasn't all that reliable about taking it. I took it more often than I shaved, but that doesn't say much because I basically didn't shave much during college.
Important was having structure within your house, like not just outside, but in your home? How important was the structure that you had in your home from little to big?
Very. To some extent, I made my own structure, but I did very structured. Honestly, it took ages before I was building Legos in ways that were not based on the instructions. But even with built by the instructions, I could still do had a lot of fun with them. But yeah, I made my own structure. And it was kind of important for me to maintain a lot of that structure, because hey, if I know what's coming up, that's at least something I can control.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Hello. I know dealing with mental illness, it can make you sometimes not want to gravitate to people because it's hard. What are some of the things that your mom did to encourage you to kind of socialize and be a little active?
I did try a decent number of sports. If you can tell, it didn't exactly work. I can, however, minor claim to fame. I failed at literally every aspect of basketball, including trash talk. A sportsman, I am not. But at least walking, I blame my D&D friends for this, but I've started playing Pokemon Go, and that actually gets me walking a little bit. But even something minor like that, just anything to sort of get up and move. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's better than not doing it. So. Okay, I see someone over there.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Our son is 16 years old, and I just want you to tell us a little bit of your journey when you were learning how to drive.
My mother actually is able to teach driver's ed, and it was and there was some that's where I learned through. But the biggest issue with driving, I could figure out the rules of the road. I was actually pretty good about the driving rules and driving laws. It's just other people aren't. So I had to learn so I had to get a lot better about. Generally speaking, if there was going to be a wreck with me involved, I wasn't going to be the cause. I'm not quite the wait at the stop sign until it turns green, but I was a very cautious driver, and I'm still fairly cautious to this day. I'm just a lot more willing to do things like actually drive on the freeway with its own interesting differences and rules. But it was just a case of driving back roads until I felt comfortable driving the less back roads, until I got comfortable driving on more major roads, until the feeder road, until actually on the highway. It was an interesting experience. The longest individual drive that I did, I think, was to Navasota for something work-related, and that was, at the current job, year and a half, if that. So it's not going to be fast. Don't expect somebody who's having confidence issues in driving to just get behind the wheel and start zooming 70 down the freeway. No, that doesn't work that way. Driving at night, by the way, is also helpful because there's less people out there. The only downside is all these friggin' bright headlights. Light sensitivity doesn't help.
Well, we can do some more questions, but also want to respect your time and wanting to see some of the exhibitors out there. And so this is the time we were going to go to. You can continue to stay and ask questions. And then also in your seat, you found the satisfaction survey. If you could please complete that and either leave it in your seat or put it on the table when you head out. And that really helps us with our funding. And so I want to thank Chris for coming. And then, yeah, there you go. Awesome.
And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be here the whole time. So if you have questions, feel free to come up and ask me. I don't bite. At least I don't think I do. Not anymore, anyway. But I'm fully willing to answer questions if people feel like asking them. And if you had questions you didn't feel comfortable asking in front of a crowd, feel free to ask them when there's not so much of a crowd there. I don't know if any of the further questions would end up getting recorded.
And remember, the 11 o'clock is when we'll start the breakout rooms. And so feel free to continue to ask Chris questions, and then we'll see you in the breakout rooms. Thank you so much.